So the Department of Education is responsible for making sure that vulnerable children in school districts are protected. Kids with disability, right? They make sure that kids who are LGBTQ are valued. They make sure that transgender people who Charlie does not even acknowledge their existence
Wrong. Value their existence. How dare you say something like that? Like, seriously. Value their existence? Yeah, you should sit down. I mean, seriously.
So let's talk about it.
Value their existence.
Wait.
Seriously.
Wait. Do you acknowledge there's more than one gender?
There's two genders. Yes, there's more than one gender.
Do you think that there's more than two genders? I'm assuming that was his real question, but
I don't think Charlie's teachers liked him very much. Do you guys?
The feeling was mutual.
Yeah. So this is interesting, right? This is something that I want to explore further, right? So this is again an example of how Charlie and I are so impossibly different and have had such different reactions to almost every single thing that's happened since 2008. Right? So to get to your question, no, the Department of Education shouldn't be abolished. That's a ridiculous talking point. Should it be streamlined? Can things be more efficient? Always. But so I want to take us back to 2010 when Governor Scott Walker was first elected, right? And you were writing op-eds in your high school paper, right, about how great he was for busting up teachers' unions, right? Your teachers were going to Madison, Wisconsin, right, where I'm from, right? They were busting themselves up to show solidarity with their other teachers, right? And Charlie didn't have the human capacity to wonder why, right? Why did they need to stand in solidarity with folks in where it gets hot here, it gets real cold in Wisconsin, I'll tell you that right now. They were out there in the freezing cold, just asking for very simple things, right? Very, very simple things. Can we collectively bargain for our pay? Can we collectively bargain for our health care? Can we go and sit down as equals with the folks that employ us just to have a conversation about what it's like and what we need to get by, because teachers are serving the public. Right? It's a public service job where they get up every day. It is thankless. I don't care when folks say they don't work in the summer. I know that they do. It is a ridiculous talking point to say otherwise. We know that we have to value these folks, right? So the Department of Education.
they don't work in the summer, meaning they don't work for their school in the summer unless they decide to teach summer school. If you're teaching grades K through 12, they don't work. So they usually run on I want to say a 9.5 to 10 months work schedule. But when it comes to teachers' pay, I'm the type where I believe that if you're working a career field such as a teacher, anything where it's your career, I think that you should have a livable wage. That's what I think. So I'm not going to get into details about the exact specifications of that, but I don't think if you have a career, you shouldn't be able to live a normal life. You shouldn't be living like, I'm not saying a 2-3 story house, but you should be able to survive. But anyways, let's continue.
There's something very interesting, right? And I want to hear what your solution for this would be, because I don't know what it would be. So the Department of Education is responsible for making sure that vulnerable children in school districts are protected. Kids with disabilities, right? They make sure that kids who are LGBTQ are valued. They make sure that transgender people who Charlie does not even acknowledge their existence
Wrong.
Okay.
Value their existence. How dare you say something like that? Like, seriously. Value their existence? Yeah, you should sit down. I mean, seriously.
So let's talk about it.
Value their existence.
Wait.
Seriously.
Wait.
Value their existence.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Okay. Do you acknowledge there's more than one gender?
There's two genders. Yes, there's more than one gender.
Do you acknowledge that trans...
The question was about the Department of Education.
I'm assuming he meant, do you think that there's more than two genders? I'm assuming that was his real question, but anyways, let's go.
Would you acknowledge that transgender kids need special protections in school?
Absolutely, yes. That could be done on a local basis. It doesn't take a federal bureaucracy to look after LGBT students.
There's two issues that I have right now. And I know that it's still about the Department of Education because they are the ones that enforce this regulation. So what I think is interesting, right, is that if you turn this over to local control, right, so then the kid in Scottsdale might be protected and the kid in South Phoenix might not. Right? We know that this creates a patchwork of protections where we can't even define what it means to be American, because one American, 10 miles apart, right? And I I'm shocked that you're offended because you would hit us all for being offended and triggered.
Actually, I'm not offended. I'm laughing.
Okay, but so
Well, I would say this. I understand where he's coming from, but that discussion or that analogy doesn't really make much sense. Because if you're saying what it means to be an American, someone could say, well, what about state rights? Although there's a federal right, there's still specific state rights. Every state you go in is 50 states. So would you say one state is more or less American than the other state? No, you wouldn't. So saying that it would be less American or the kid will have a worse time or if it was state regulated, it's kind of disingenuous, if I'm being honest. It's not really true because state rights exist, and no matter what state you go to, someone will be proud to be in that state. Doesn't mean they're any less or more than because they're from there, or let's say the kid doesn't mean they're any less or more than protected just because they're from there. But let's continue. He may elaborate a little more. I don't know yet.
what I think you're missing, right, is that when you say that, and again, I misspoke, right? But when you say that transgender folks can't identify that way, right, or that there's not more than one gender, right, you're not valuing their existence.
No, actually,
right?
I am. I'm saying
So tell me
there's
more.
two genders, and this idea that there's 47 genders and counting is wrong. It's non-biological. It's anti-science, and it's harmful
Of all
to
people to be
society.
anti-science.
Yeah. It is anti-science. Just because Brown University says there's 47 genders and pick one doesn't mean it necessarily is true. They used to call this gender dysphoria. Okay, there's two genders. Now, can someone who might be born as a man choose to be a woman? Yes. There's two genders. Pick one. I value their existence. How dare you say something like that? Okay, back to what I was saying. So you were a lot there. So Department of Education.
Can you stop talking over her?
No.
Can you let her do her job, please? She put a lot of time
All
into
of the Department of Education is what we want to get.
Okay. Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So do you have something to add about the role of
Wait,
the Department of Education?
Can you?
To abolish it.
Well, I'm curious. Can you name a specific inefficiency or program specifically from the Department of Ed that is
Yes.
inefficient?
Pell Grants.
Okay, tell me more about it.
FAFSA. The waste within Title IX funding, the waste within
What is a Pell Grant?
every single inner city grant that I've ever come across, the $160 billion that they indiscriminately send throughout the country that has net no impact on test scores or urban poverty levels or literacy rates. So the entire thing is a waste. And it could be better done on a local. So you said, hold on, you said a great point. You said, what about the students that are discriminated against in South Phoenix? Well, that's why we have a court system. You don't need a federal bureaucracy.
I'm not going to lie, and I'm in college right now, so I think I can speak on this. I'm not an expert at it, but I've seen it happen as I've been doing a little bit of research in the news about other students or other schools. And here's the thing about grants. When there's something like I'm not going to say Pell Grant specifically because I don't think it's necessarily a Pell Grant, but let's say a school has a grant that they're offering just students. Usually these grants are taken from some of their higher educational programs and given to students just off the sake. And that is the Department of Education, where let's say you have an engineering program at a university or a mathematics program at a university. And this program says in order to get into this program and get our scholarship money, you have to have a 3.5 GPA out of high school and you have to be good at calculus. What a grant program will do is say, well, we're going to give you this money anyways, as long as your family makes less than $20,000 and you're black. And you don't have to be good at anything. Just come to our school and we'll give you this money. And that, to me, is a big problem that I've noticed. You will undermine some of your higher educational programs just to give money like randomly. And to me, it doesn't really make much sense and it doesn't make your school better. And this is something that I've personally heard about in the news and stuff or seen at other colleges. This is not something that I'm making up. This is really happening, and that is the DOE.
Oh my
To
gosh.
adjudicate that. You can sue, go through the circuit court system, and go up to the Supreme Court. You don't need a federal government bureaucracy to go after every sort of injustice. That's why we have a Supreme Court. I believe in the courts. You don't need a federal bureaucracy to go after that.
Do you think that the mom in South Phoenix?
response?
Yes, I tell you what he said. Do you think that the mom in South Phoenix, right, who works 3 jobs, right, is up late trying to take care of her kids, right, and then her kid is discriminated against in school, right, and a lawyer costs X amount of money, right, and public defenders are overworked, they're not at the level that they need to be to take on a school district or the state if it got to that level, or to go all the way to the Supreme Court, right? So then this becomes, again, the idea of privilege, right? You assume that everything works for everyone.
We're going to have to talk about privilege. I'm sorry, this is getting out of control. Okay, seriously.
You've been talking a lot. Can you give me another 30 seconds and then you can go on?
Yeah,
go on.
sure.
Right? So this is the idea that, right, you assume that everything will automatically work for you. Right? You wake up every day and every system works for you without having to worry about whether or not you can access it in the first place. If you are a person of color and your child is being discriminated against in South Phoenix, you do not have access to the courts. Right?
Why do people keep relating people of color to not having privileges? Why? I see it every single video. I swear I see it every single video. Why is that the talking point? I get it. You're talking about an underprivileged family who may not have the resources to go to a court and get a lawyer and have legal battles. By the time the battle's done, the kid's going to be done with the grade anyways. It takes 10 months. You're only in school. You're only in a grade for about 10 months. But how did that relate to a black or a Latino or a person of color family? How does that relate? How does having money relate to that? And I waited, and I wait every time. I wait patiently. And it always happens. Go back to all my videos. They say, oh, the minority family. Not all minority families are broke. I promise you, you don't have to say a minority family when you talk about a broke family. Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness. In South Phoenix? Really? That's not even a black place. But anyways, this is unbelievable.
What about the ACLU? Don't they represent a lot of students that are...
Absolutely.
Oh, so they represent everyone.
So they represent everyone. It's not for everyone, right? These folks do not
All
have...
it takes is one court decision, and then they can't do it again, or else they go to jail.
Do you think that that's how the justice system works
No, that
in this
actually
country?
is how it works. That's how the Little Rock Nine worked. That's how integration in the South works. That's how desegregation works. That's how the Civil Rights Act works.
About that.
Actually, I do get to talk about that.
You don't get to
because-
claim these great civil rights wins as part of your
It was actually
legacy.
the Republican Party that had all those great civil rights
And
laws.
that's another lie.
All right.
You know, my mom's watching at home, right? And she taught me not to lie, so I won't.
But he's not lying. If you look back to a lot of old school black families, when you talk about civil rights movements, majority are very conservative. Majority believe in the Bible, believe in getting married very young, starting a family, the man goes and work. That's how majority of older black families work. They are extremely old school. Extremely. So much old school that that's actually a trope within the young black community. How your grandparents just say, don't wear that outside. Don't dress like that. That's a trope. That's something that young black people talk about. How they're way more open now than they were back then. Way more open. So for you to say, well, no, that's a lie that the Republican Party tells. I'm telling you it's not a lie. Look back. Look back to old school black families who were around when these movements were happening. What did they talk about? What did they value? It is extremely on par with the Republican Party today. Extremely. It really hasn't changed, if I'm being honest. It's literally the same values. If I'm keeping it a buck, it's the same exact values. And this is not me defending one party. I'm just telling you what it is. Because this is my life. I'm telling you what it is. It's the same exact values and it has not changed.
Won't do it, right? And hi, Mom, I love you.
Was Strom Thurmond a Democrat or a Republican?
But so here's the issue, and I'm not going to get into the semantics with it. What I'm talking about is the idea that he can take credit for all of these things and then twist them historically to serve the talking points of the people that already have bought into Turning Point. You're not going to get new people when you take credit for what the black community did or what the Latino community did or what the LGBT community does every single day. You don't get to do that. And before you start talking again, you have to understand that this is an identity issue. And you never get to talk about this.
Let's stop. Stop with the identity.
You don't get to talk about this like
I'm going to keep
that.
talking. If you want to interrupt me, you can. I'm just going to keep talking.
You've done it every second that I've talked into the microphone.
Can I respond?
Yes, a response,
Okay.
and then we move on. Got it?
Privilege. What a bunch of nonsense. If you want to be, seriously, I mean, Privilege.
Hold on.
Everyone has some element of privilege. Some people are smarter.
I have-
some people...
I have privilege.
Let me,
I have
let me
privilege.
finish. Okay, I let you do your piece. Privilege. Okay?
Sure.
Privilege. If you want to succeed in this country, you do three simple things. America is still a meritocracy. You graduate from high school, you get a job, and you get married before you have kids. No matter your skin color, no matter where you come from. Are some people born with less? Yes, absolutely. Do we need increased opportunity? Yes, absolutely. And every policy I advocate for is increasing opportunity. Not perpetrating victimhood, not trying to say, you're privileged because you're a certain color and you're a certain gender, or you're privileged because you come from a certain part of the country. Instead, talk about the policies, the data, the math. You know what doesn't have privilege? Mathematics. You have not refuted a singular data point that I have brought up tonight.
So let's do
Not
this.
one.
So let's do this.
Is
Wait,
math all of a
this is-
sudden
this is
privilege
relevant.
now?
Okay,
That's
sorry,
fine.
I
We're
interrupted
done.
you.
Thank you.
So can I ask about a specific policy that you would advocate for?
Please.
Right. So white people in this country, their average net worth in this country is $171,000.
Asians are actually $192,000, so where's your Asian privilege?
He's right. When I hear these discussions, and this is why I try, everyone. I swear I try. I try to be as objective as I can. I don't want to side with Charlie Kirk just because. I don't want to side with a young man just because he's young and a minority. But when you talk about white privilege, they don't even have the most economic privilege. This is not me making this up. They don't have the most economic privilege. They don't have the most resources. So why do you ignore the top? You're intentionally being disingenuous when you do that. Because if you took the time to look up what the net worth of a white family is, it's not just going to show you their net worth. It's going to show you the net worth of every demographic of people in the country. So you looked at the demographics. You saw that they weren't number one. They're not even number two. Indian Americans, number two. They're number three. And you just picked that statistic out and compared it to African Americans or Latino Americans. That's disingenuous. That's not right. You can't do that. That's not how statistics work.
Indian Americans are $188,000. Where's your Indian American privilege? There are twice as many white people living in poverty than black people. Where's your outrage for all the poor white people in West Virginia and Appalachia that were left behind from the disastrous anti-coal policies that your wonderful President Barack Obama passed and left entire regions of this country without work, without self-worth, without the capacity or ability to earn money?
Andy, do you want to respond to that?
He asked me a question.
But I didn't get to finish it. That's part of it. So when you ask a question, something at the end is asking you to respond. And
Go
you
ahead.
skip that
I'll
part.
keep my...
So, okay, so if white folks in this country have $171,000 of average net worth in this country, right? And the average black net worth in this country is about $17,000, and the average Latino net worth in this country is about $20,000. Can you explain to me how you would create a more equitable economic system that actually tries to, and you tried to claim equity earlier in the policies that you're talking about, but equity would be if we took money that we know is already there, right? We know that it's offshore, we know that folks aren't paying their taxes, we know that corporations like GE are paying close to 0% in taxes every single year, and we know that if we created this economic platform that rewarded you, right, and not the wealthy few and not the privileged few, then we know that there would actually be more growth, more economic opportunity for everyone, right?
That's cap. That's cap. I'm sorry. I have to call you out. That's not true. You know, I would agree with what you're saying. I would agree with what you're saying when it comes to equitable finances or equitable opportunities. If every single race of person, or even on average, every demographic of person was doing the same exact things, and then there was a wealth disparity of that amount. Whereas the white Americans had a $170,000 net worth, whereas the black Americans, as you said, these are your statistics, had a $17,000 net worth. If we were all doing the same exact things and we were still not even coming close, then I would say, you know what? You're making a lot of sense. But what is the marriage rate within the white community? What is the college graduate rate within the white community? What is the amount of white Americans who, when they don't go to college, get a trade? What about the military? You ignore all these statistics that literally lead directly to wealth. What about the kids out of wedlock rates? You're ignoring these statistics, but then you're saying equity. It's only equity if every community is doing the exact same things. And as we know, there's different cultures within communities. I didn't say skin color had different cultures because that's not necessarily true. Every community has different cultures. So if all communities have different cultures, one community may value education more. One community may value family more. One community may value entertainment more or sports more or something more. That's just natural. That's equity. You're allowed to choose what you want to do. But you're not allowed, you're not automatically given the same economic stance in society. That's not how it works. That's not equity. That's kind of racist, if I'm being honest.
Charlie's vision of economic opportunity serves very
Asian Americans, white Americans, African Americans, Indian Americans, and all Americans. Yes, all Americans will benefit from
I would
my vision of
love to
economic
talk to some
opportunity.
folks about whether they think that Charlie's message of economic freedom actually includes them, because I know
You
for
know
a
what?
fact that
Actually,
it doesn't.
it's interesting. I see a lot of
White,
people of color
white,
here.
white,
People of color,
black.
person of color, 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 person of color. It's interesting. Talk to them. They'll have some interesting sound bites. Also, you should come to our Young Latino Leadership Summit, which is the nation's largest Young Latino Leadership Summit for young, freedom-loving conservatives, all of which are bilingual, first-generation young Latinos that are all conservative. So there's a lot of words. Go ahead. Sorry, I want to.
Yeah, no. So I think we've actually exhausted that concept.
I'm having a great time. I don't know about everyone here.
Is everyone enjoying themselves?
We are actually going to open the floor to questions.
Let's do it.
So I
great.
guess if you want to ask these guys a question, just raise your hand and I can pick on you. Yeah, you. And then we'll hand a mic to you too, so we can hear your question. Oh, right here.
Yeah, I'm having
Yep.
fun. It's good.
Ken, my man, how are you doing?
Doing very well. Okay, I'm a senior here at ASU, studying history. I just want to ask Randy about the fact with Maricopa Community Colleges.
Yes.
Since the state 2 years ago took funding out of its budget, and you're saying that since that tuition has risen. Can you
I said it will rise, just to be specific. Okay. I don't know about the specifics of the community college.
Well, the former vice chancellor of the of services said in an interview with KTAR when the initial budget went through the legislature, said that only 1% of state funding actually is the revenue for the entire Maricopa Community College's budget. This main budget is from property taxes and tuition. And tuition is mainly from property taxes. The only thing that actually does affect is any future initiatives that the colleges actually do, which as a employee for the Maricopa Community Colleges, we're still growing, we're still serving many different demographics of students, and so I just wanted to get where the facts are coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that you made an interesting point, right, about property taxes funding schools, right? So you work for the system, you said, right, Ken? You work for Maricopa County Community Colleges? Which is a nicer school, Scottsdale Community College or South Mountain Community College?
They're all nice.
Which one would you rather go to?
Visit all of them. Personally, I live near Mesa Community College, but I visited all of them. I used to work for the Student Loan Support Services team, which I agree with Charlie, if we didn't have a Department of Education, it would be a lot easier to do my job. But
man, I don't even understand this young man. I'm not saying he's not intelligent or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, why can't you just admit when you're wrong? Why can't you just admit that you don't know certain things? Why does everything have to turn into a debate? I get it. It's your job to, go up there and prove your point. But when did we get to the point where we would rather be right? We would rather convince you than actually be right. We would rather our egos be saved than just say, you know what? I didn't know that. Instead, you flip it to, well, which school would you rather go to? No matter where you go, there will always be a nicer school. I don't care if you get the best 10 schools in the world. There has to be a best school in the world and a second best. What are you trying to say, man? Like, this is so childish.
all the schools are nice, and we're still thriving without
I hope that they serve all their students really well. I think that's important. I'm sure that you do a great job. But I want to talk about the way that those schools are funded, right? When you look at the way that you would fund property taxes, whose home values are higher? Is it when we go down to Broadway and Central, and those property taxes that to fund Roosevelt schools and then South Mountain Community College? Is it houses in Scottsdale that having?
Bruh. All right, this young man is frustrating me. I'm not even gonna lie. It's everything just turns into white people have more money or whatever, so they're like everything just turns back into that. It doesn't even matter what you say. The teacher told you that all the schools are nice. He works there. And you were saying, well, I can't do this right now. If you have any suggestions, comment down below. I'll see you.